Georgia is on our minds. Will a signature audit happen and perhaps change the vote count in that state? Plus, Dr. Fauci says he'd accept a role in a Biden administration. Biden also telling you that he wants us all to mask up for 100 days. Are movie theaters going away forever? That and more coming up. Welcome, friends, to the Buck Sexton Show. They've been telling us no evidence, and then some people found a dictionary and looked up, and it turns out that sworn affidavits under penalty of perjury do count as evidence. They've been telling us no irregularities, and then we see thousands of votes messed up by the software or found in a bag or a ditch or a bin somewhere that weren't counted in Georgia. We've been seeing these issues, even though all along we've been told don't pay any attention to it. Now, keep in mind, in states like Georgia, the margin of victory is less than 15,000 votes. Less than 15,000 votes, friends. This is very tight. This is a very thin margin of victory. But they've been telling us all along, even if there's a little bit of a problem here or there, some fraud, a little sprinkled in there, a little irregularity peppered in here, not going to change anything. But then yesterday in these hearings in Georgia, we saw video. I watched the whole 12-minute video presentation by the Trump team, and it certainly looks very fishy. You have people dismissed, told that they need to go home. It's the end of the election day counting, and then some people stay behind. Then they pull out suitcases from under a table and start doing something that looks a whole lot like counting. And they've got 3 machines that are able to go during that period of time, and they estimate that those machines could do a few thousand ballots an hour, and they got 2 hours to work with no one else there, and this is all on camera, which they believe would be enough for someone to count in invalid, illegal votes such that it would cause the state of Georgia to go for Joe Biden. Now, that is the allegation, and I have seen the video, and the video is certainly very concerning, very interesting. Why would any counting? I've seen also the explanation, that the most common explanation offered up, and it's including from apparently a election official in the state of Georgia who says, these are called cutters, and they're just removing the absentee ballots from the envelopes. Okay, why would that happen with no one else there? Why would this happen after hours? This is the standard practice? And then they say, there were no ballots really in the suitcases. They were just empty suitcases or empty bins or something. It's not compelling. The explanation for this so far is not, okay, I can kind of see how that would happen. No, instead, you look at this and you say, that's very suspicious, isn't it? That seems concerning to me. But sure enough, mainstream media wants nothing to do with it. They simply don't care. They tell us that this is already debunked. That's one of their favorite words. Anytime there's a debate that they don't want to have, they use the word debunked to claim that it's already over with. Well, now finally, Governor Kemp of Georgia has come out, and he has said that there should be a signature audit. Now, let me point something out to you. When we were initially having these fights, when we were having these debates, before the election even happened, about how mail-in ballots would be so susceptible to fraud, you know what the response was? Be quiet, you idiots. There's signature matching. That's our fail-safe, so you can't just mail something in. There's signature matching. And that was in the months leading up to the election what the pro-mail-in ballot media, Democrats, libs were saying. But then we found out after the election, remember the whole signature matching thing? Didn't happen. Didn't do it. What do you mean? Maybe we did in some places, maybe not in others, but no. Why wouldn't you have an audit looking for a signature match here? There's no reason. There's an understandable public controversy. There's reason to believe something bad has happened here. And we have at least some prayer of finding out what really went on here by checking to see if signatures match. Now, what are the risks for the people involved in all this? You have to remember that. They keep saying, oh, this Republican official or that Republican official. Could you imagine if you were in charge of elections for the state of Georgia, or you were involved in that process, and you've been saying all along it was fine, and then you're proven to be a fraud and an idiot? That wouldn't look very good, would it? But more than that, and here's the part of it that I think they're particularly concerned about. Here's the part of it that really worries them. All we have to do is find one clear-cut case of fraud in one of these states, and the whole conversation changes. All of a sudden, you have a situation where when they tell us that there's no reason to look at this, it's already over and done. Stop being a conspiracy theorist. Stop looking at this crazy stuff online. You know, the president says that they didn't match. Now, the signature match is what they would have to do in this case for the absentee ballots, right? Mail-in ballots. That's where the signature match was supposed to be applied. And we keep hearing no evidence of fraud, no evidence of fraud. But every time we try to look into allegations based on evidence, they say, shut it down, end it all. That's because they know if we find one case that they can no longer pretend is not absolutely proven, real, ironclad, the game plan has to shift. What do they say then about Wisconsin and about Nevada and about Arizona? What do they say about these other states? What do they say about Pennsylvania, where we still have very real concerns and there are serious allegations out there? They don't have an answer. They're hoping to shame you and shut you down so that we do not hold the line. And it matters right now. Here we are in December. We've got a little over a month before an inauguration, and these weeks ahead are absolutely critical. We need to support those who are going for answers here. We need to support those who are willing to present the evidence. Win or lose, they are warriors for the cause here. They're doing the right thing. And we need to understand that everything on the left is at stake right now, because not only would their dream of the end of a Trump presidency, it's not like they're excited about Joe Biden per se. I mean, no one's that dumb. But it's the end of the Trump presidency that makes them so jubilant. That's why there's this sense of joy all across left-wing America. But not only would that be at stake, if we establish that there was cheating in this election, the Democrat brand, there'll be long-term ramifications for that one. When we get into arguments about elections going forward, we'll say, really, cheaters? You want to try and cheat again? And don't ever forget in this process that while they're asking for good faith, while they're telling all of us, while the media is doing everything they can to just bludgeon you into submission with all these stories about nothing proven, fact check, it's not true, fact check, they're lying, fact check, no evidence. They spent 3 years pretending that the president of the United States, the actual president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, was an asset of the Kremlin, a traitor to his country, a Russian spy who stole the 2016 election. They are in no position now to point at me or you or anyone else and say, how dare you dabble in these conspiracy theories? No, we're just fact-checking. We'll call it that. They like that better, I think, than searching for truth or looking for clues. We'll just say we're fact-checking as well. Was this election stolen? Fact-check. That's what we're doing. And whenever they offer up the no evidence claim, we'll say, well, the no evidence claim has been debunked. Turn it back around on them. Use their weaponized phrases as a means of shutting down their efforts to shut you down. It'll drive them nuts. And as long as we continue to hold the line on this, as long as we continue to do what we need to here to get the evidence presented and to bring it before a judge, because even if a judge doesn't rule in our favor, at least then it's official record. The evidence presented in court, we can all cite it. We all know it's there. It's public. And we'll hear the presentations as we have been in these oversight committees of these state legislatures. We'll hear what the Trump team has found so far. And for the first time, I have not been overhyped on this. A lot of people that are running around saying Trump won, it's 100%, we're going to prove it. I think that they're getting ahead of themselves in terms of whether we can prove it. But this in Georgia, this is the first time I've said we need to dig in on this fraud and see what's really going on here, because I think we may have it. They're calling it a smoking gun. It's not quite there yet. I got to look through all the different explanations and all the different peculiarities of Georgia state election law. But it certainly looks fishy. And anybody seeing it, anybody who's told what's going on here, they would think the same thing. So all that nothing to see here, just move on, gets a little bit harder for the libs, doesn't it? And then when you add to that the Democrats changed laws in places like Pennsylvania in an unconstitutional fashion, we still very much are in this fight. It is not over. And we're not going to give up until we decide it's time for us to move on to the next fight. And we're not there yet. So Georgia is on our minds. This signature match audit should absolutely happen. There's no reason for it not to. Governor Kemp has come forward saying just that. It's good to hear from the guy. He was kind of quiet for a while, it seemed there. And it's essential as well going into the January 5th runoff for the Senate that everyone understand that we're watching every move in Georgia. And the GOP better have their poll watchers and their lawyers. They better get their ground game ready to go. Get those election troops, so to speak, all in line and ready to watch what's happening and make sure that it's all legitimate and legal and none of these shenanigans happen again. Because I can assure you of this, whatever the Democrats got away with on this election day, they will try the next one. Whatever it is, it'll happen again. With travel being as challenging and as concerning as it is for so many people these days, you know that it's not really going to be a normal holiday season. You're not going to see everybody you want to see. That's just the way it's probably going to be for a lot of folks across the country, right? A lot of challenges. But you can still send the people who matter to you something that'll really brighten their day, cheer them up, bring them some holiday joy. Go with Bloomsy Box. That's what I've done. I've got Bloomsy Box flowers right now sent to my girlfriend. You can have them sent to members of your family. Anyone you can't see, reach out and touch them with beautiful flowers. They're incredible. Bloomsy Box are simply better blooms. The look on your family or friend's face when they get their Bloomsy Box flowers arrive, it's all worth it. Whether I'm sending a single holiday arrangement or a subscription for someone special to receive flowers each month, I only send Bloomsy Box. I got you a special discount, too. Go to bloomsybox.com, enter code BUCK for 15% off and free shipping. That's promo code BUCK at Bloomsybox, BLOOMSY, bloomsybox.com, promo code BUCK.
I called early on for a signature audit. Obviously, the Secretary of State, per the laws and the Constitution, would have to order that. He has not done that. I think it should be done. I think, especially with what we saw today, it raises more questions. There needs to be transparency on that. I would again call for that, and I think in the next 24 hours, hopefully we'll see a lot more from the hearings that the legislature had today, and we'll be able to look and see what the next steps are.
So what are they going to say? What are they going to say when it comes time for this audit, when it's actually happening? and we find that there are some signatures that don't match, if that happens, what are they going to say? Oh, it was a good faith mistake. I just want you to be prepared for it right now. It was a good faith error. People we wanted every vote to count. They're not signature specialists or whatever. Trust me. Trust me. They're going to find some way to tell you. They're going to find some way to make it seem like this was no big deal. So here's the truth about Georgia. This is the AP said, when a voter requests an absentee ballot on a paper application, he or she must sign it. Election officials compare that signature to the signature in voter registration files before a ballot is sent. When those ballots are returned, the required signature on the outer envelope is compared to the signature in the voter registration system. Well, Trump is saying, because a lot of people saw this, that did not happen. Didn't happen. They're supposed to be comparing the signatures. They didn't compare the signatures. Got to count everything. Sorry. Whatever comes in. Democrats know that if they eliminate election safeguards, if they take the things that are put in place that are agreed to by both sides, and then they change them so that it's just possible to flood the zone with whatever, it benefits them. Why is that? Is there something about being a Democrat that means that you prefer the convenience of mailing something in as opposed to showing up in person and voting? No, I don't think there is. So why do Democrats recognize? Just think about it this way. What about mail-in ballots, mass mail-in ballots for anyone who wants one, everyone, is so obviously an enormous benefit to Democrats? They knew this. I mean, Nancy Pelosi was gleeful, and I'm just going to say it. Republicans should have fought harder on this earlier on, but we got so beaten down by the COVID panic narrative, and oh my gosh, you can't expect people to stand in line to vote. People are in line to the grocery store all the time. They're going to big box stores. All this stuff about lockdowns people act like they're actually stuck in their homes and don't go anywhere. That's not true. No one does that. Or very few people do that. No, they go out and they do things that they have to do. And to vote once a year for a vast majority of people wouldn't seem like such a big imposition. They could have done it so that people were in and out in a speedy amount of time, and there's no high risk, I should say, of virus transmission. But the Democrats knew if you make this just a free-for-all, ballots coming in from all over the place, don't know where, don't know who, just send them all out in the mail, millions and millions of live ballots all over the place. They knew it would benefit them. Why is that? We all know the answer. They say things like there's no fraud. Why would they say that? That's obviously untrue. It's propaganda. If there's no fraud, then how can we investigate it, right? People say, I heard from a really trusted source that there's no fraud. We all know it's not true. But that is their approach. That is what they will do. That is what they will say. And the implications of all this are enormous. If we catch them in one serious fraud, even if it's not enough to overturn the election, think about this. If we catch them in one serious fraud in any of these states, then they'll be wounded in terms of their credibility, their ability to fool Americans of good faith and goodwill into believing the Democrats aren't somehow a corrupt political organization. That's going to be a lot harder. So I want to find the fraud even under any circumstances. I want to know what was done here. I want to know what happened. Because I don't believe that Democrats who claim the current president is a Russian asset and a fascist, I don't think it's above them to cheat. Just going to put this out there. I recently took a crash course in home title theft, and look, you better make sure this crime never happens to you because it comes after your most valuable asset, your home. Here's how it works. The bad guys, cyber thieves, they find your home's title online. Then they use a quitclaim deed to kick you off, put themselves on. Then they take out loans against the equity in your home. A lot of people find out about this when they get payment demands in the mail or even a foreclosure notice. The usual identity theft services don't protect you. You have to go with the experts I trust at Home Title Lock. They can create a virtual barrier around your home's title. All you have to do is go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use the promo code RADIO. That'll get you 30 free days of protection. And you can check online to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it yet. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code RADIO. That will get you 30 free days of protection. Plus, you can check online to see if you're a victim of home title theft and don't yet know it. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code RADIO. What is Joe Biden's genius plan to save America from the virus? Anybody got any ideas? I got one. The same thing. Biden's got a fever, and the only prescription is more masking. Play one.
It is important that we, in fact, the president and the vice president, we set the pattern by wearing masks. But beyond that, where the federal government has authority, I'm going to issue a standing order that in federal buildings, in transportation, interstate transportation, you must be masked in airplanes and buses, et cetera. And so it's a matter of, and I think my inclination, Jake, is on the first day I'm inaugurated to say I'm going to ask the public for 100 days to mask, just 100 days to mask, not forever, 100 days. And I think we'll see a significant reduction if we occur that, if that occurs with vaccinations and masking to drive down the numbers considerably.
Because we haven't been masking? You abject moron? That's really what the plan is? I'm gonna ask, I was walking around and I broke my foot on my here you go. Here he actually answered that. Why did he break his foot? Play four.
I wear the big boot most of the time, but when coming out here, it's just kind of clumsy. So they gave me this little thing to work.
How is your foot, and what happened?
What happened was I got out of the shower. I got a dog, and anybody's been around my house knows. Little pup dropped a ball in front of me, and for me to grab the ball, and I'm walking through this little alleyway to get to the bedroom. And I had the ball like this, and he ran, and I was joking, running after him to grab his tail. And what happened was that he slid on a throw rug, and I tripped on the rug he slid on. That's what happened.
Oh, man.
Not very exciting story.
Your next president, if the Democrats get their way, friends. Yeah. Hey, I was out there, and a little dog running around, and man, the rug, and I was moving and my weight was going and wondering, this is who's going to be the leader of the free world if Democrats get their way. It's pretty amazing. But back to the mask mandate, though. Can you get on a plane right now without a mask? No, you cannot. Can you go into a private business in states that, like New York and California, have lockdowns and are going through their worst ever? Right now, they have the worst ever number of cases in those states. And some of them, not all of them. Is it obvious to anybody why this is happening? Do they understand why this is happening? Because the masks certainly haven't stopped it. So I'm just wondering, does anybody have a theory of because they can keep telling us mask up, mask up, mask up. But remember, if you had an infection and a doctor told you at the beginning, oh, don't take anything for that. You don't need anything. Don't take antibiotics. Don't take antivirals. Don't take anything. You're fine. And then you found out that, oh no, the doctor came back a few weeks later. Turns out, I know that you almost died from that infection, but we were totally wrong about that one. Would you trust that person as much? Would you believe them going forward? I think you'd have a tough time with it. On masking alone, Fauci, Dr. Fauci, told us all don't wear masks. In fact, there was a period there, I remembered in New York, where you had to be careful if you wore an N95 mask. You might get N95 shamed because people would say, why are you wearing that? That's for healthcare workers. To which I think anybody would want to respond, I don't want to get the virus. And it's in life, ultimately, we are in a kind of every man and woman for himself situation. I know the libs like to pretend that we don't all know that, but no one cares about your health but you. Maybe your spouse, your immediate family, but no one cares about it as much as you do. No one. You care about your own health more than anyone. And being told you can't wear a more effective mask that you're able to get your hands on because it is meant for healthcare workers just goes to show you the mentality here. Oh, okay. Why is it better? Why should it just be for healthcare workers? Because it's better, obviously. How much better? I'm going to tell you that if you look at the science, a properly fitted N95 mask is substantially better than the bandanas that people wear and the loose kerchiefs they'll put around their face and say, yeah, I'm masked up, yeah. And yet here we are, still being told this. 100 days. 100 days to mask. How many hundreds of days have we already done this? You know what the definition of insanity is? We all know. And that's exactly what Biden's telling us to do here. That's exactly what's going on. He wants you to just keep listening to the same stuff that hasn't worked. Somebody tell me, what would it look like right now? I mean, this is the model that I want to see. If we didn't wear masks at all, if we just went around living our lives and everyone doing their own doing their own protective measures, what would it look like? You don't ever hear that number. You don't ever get a sense of what that number would be because what's it supposed? I think today we have. I'm trying to see the latest number of cases. 217,000 cases roughly on December 3rd. Confirmed cases. 217,000. Without masks, what would that number be? I'm really curious. 2 million? 5 million? You know, because if the number without masks would be 220,000 or 230,000, I think they can back the blank off. I think they can leave us the heck alone because it's not enough. But they won't tell you because they don't know. Instead, what they do is they put Biden forward. And here's my fear. You know, I've been very consistent on this, and a lot of conservatives got a little weak. Oh, but I think the science. I mean, masking. And there are a lot of them. A lot of corporate conservatives out there who are starting to get a little weak right around, July, when there was the surge over the summer. I saw people were getting a little, I think we should listen to Fauci. I'm not gonna name any names because, I think some of them just came to it in good faith. And, how much do masks work? I tell you, I don't know. We'll find out in a few years, probably. That's when they'll actually do the real studies to see. And that's when you'll be able to look at, an honest compilation of the data. And maybe it's more effective than I think it is. But we know it's not really effective. That's 100%. That's absolutely certain. Okay. It definitely isn't like I'm wearing a mask. I don't have to worry. In fact, most of the people getting infected think they're wearing a mask almost all the time they're supposed to. So what does that tell you? But I will say this. I understand the Biden 100-day order. There's a little bit of a deviousness to this from a political standpoint. Just think about it. Before I tell you, think, why would Biden have this renewed call for a thing we are already doing, but setting the parameters at 100 days? Well, how long is it going to take to distribute the vaccine? It will be the middle of December when they say the first doses will come out. And if they do this the right way and they get it to senior citizens, they get it to the vulnerable population, then you're going to see within 30 days, the death numbers start to go down. And then as they get it out to millions more people, and I've actually asked doctors this and people that work in the hospital system, I've said, when do you think, based on the logistics, distribution, and everything else about this vaccine, when will we really see the numbers? When will this get under control? January, February, March. Everyone knows that within about 90 days of the vaccine's distribution, the caseload, because, see, I do believe in science. I think the vaccine is going to work. I believe the data behind the vaccine. If you don't want to take it because you think it's got terrible side effects and everything else, that's another discussion. But I'm telling you this, If they've put this out and they say it's 95 out of 100, you're not going to get COVID, I think it's 95 out of 100, you're not going to get COVID. So I do believe in the science when it actually is rooted in data, but I also understand politics. So what happens here, because we know the vaccine is going to be the masking is not the effective tool. Vaccines will be. But they want to create in the public mind a perception of masking that coincides with the curve, if you will, of the vaccine, so that all these people that are desperate to think they believe the science and they've been doing the right thing, I guarantee you, and producer Mark, we should mark down this show because I'm going to have to replay this in March. This one part that I'm telling you, we need to mark this down. I guarantee you what you'll see is that as the numbers come down of infections and hospitalizations and deaths going, it'll start in January and then go and then get better in March. Get better in February. And then in March, it'll be clear we've basically got this thing under control. As that happens, they will say that masking was a critical part of it. And that they were proven it's because we listened to Biden for the 100 days. They will conflate these two things together because that's necessary for their narrative. They'll act like, yeah, the vaccine helped, but, we didn't get it to that many people. It's really the masking, the 100 days of masking that did it. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Because so much of it is really people who they want to think they're smart. I can't tell you how many people I come across who I know in the media, blue checks, who are libs, and I know they're not very bright. I know they've managed to maneuver themselves into different jobs and positions in the media because of their background or because, they know the right person or they've leveraged identity politics well. There are plenty of people in the media that are just straight up dumbasses, including on the right, but many more on the left per capita. And I can just tell you this right now. They want to believe they're smart so badly. And they want to believe that they've been right all along on this one. And all you have to do to understand why that's unlikely to be the case is that the Fauci-esque call for masking is that it's obvious and the science proves it. But he's never addressed how it could be obvious and the science proved it now, but it wasn't at the beginning when we thought this was a much more fatal disease than it actually turned out to be. People forget that now. The initial IFR was individual fatality rate was estimated at 3 to 5%, which is very close to the Spanish influenza. Yeah, much worse than what we actually have, which is more like a point. They say, I think 0.3. I think it's probably more like 0.03 or 0.003 if you looked at all the cases that we miss. But nonetheless, what dramatically changed? How could something go from being obviously untrue to obviously true based on science in a period of a few months? They don't have an answer for that, do they? People don't like to think that they've been fooled, that they're not as smart as they think they are, that all of their smugness is embarrassing. So notice this. I'm telling you, my prediction on this will come true. You'll see it. It'll be very apparent. The vaccine will bring this to a close, and if Biden is the president, it was our vaccines and our unity around masking that got us through this. Even though, as I sit here talking to you, we look at the cases, we look at the fatalities, masking hasn't done as a policy a damn thing to stop this virus. You know it. I know it. Look at what's happening around you today.
You attribute any of this surge that we're seeing in the last couple of days directly to Thanksgiving and the travel and the get-togethers that did happen?
Maybe a little bit of a blip, Savannah, but we don't expect to see the full brunt of it between 2 and 3 weeks following the Thanksgiving. So I think we have not yet seen the post-Thanksgiving peak. That's the concerning thing, because the numbers in and of themselves are alarming. And then you realize that it is likely we'll see more of a surge as we get 2 to 3 weeks past the Thanksgiving holiday. And the thing that concerns me is that it butts right on the Christmas holiday as people start to travel and shop and congregate. So that's the reason why we plead with them to please, as best as you can, uniform wearing of masks, keep distances as to the best possible way you can, avoid crowds in congregate settings, particularly indoors. And if you are indoors in that circumstance, always wear your mask.
Wear your mask. That's all this guy's got for you. Stay away from human beings, wear your mask. Do you think you're going to be able to do that? Stay away from human beings? Are you going to do that? I'm not. I'm not worried about it. I'm in New York City. I go into an office every day. I'm traveling. I'm getting into strangers' vehicles here to go to where I have to go. I'm going into crowded stores. I'm doing all these things. I'm not worried. I'm not crazy. If I'm sick, I'm staying home. If I thought I had COVID, I would quarantine myself 2 weeks, no question, wouldn't go anywhere. Right? But there are only so many precautions you can take before you're just living a life of fear. And that's what they want you to do. And understand that there will be in 2021, regardless of who the president is, there's going to be a renaissance in this country. There's going to be a sense of relief and release that will be like the end of a war that had like a draft and a lot of us going to fight. But I'm not saying it's the same as that, but I'm saying there's going to be people dancing in the streets at some point, man. It'll be almost as exciting as the Biden victory for the libs in New York, right? There will come a day when we realize this thing is behind us, and there are going to be tremendous fights over who should get credit for it. You'll notice not a lot of talk about how it was the Trump administration that got a vaccine done in less than a year, helped bring a vaccine to market in less than a year, when usually it's 4 to 5 years. 4 to 5 years. Could you imagine? I mean, if we had to do 4 years of this, I'm already thinking that I might have to go full civil disobedience and get arrested for mask refusal. I'm considering it. But see, the thing is, I don't want to make anyone else. I'm polite. I don't want anyone else to worry around me. It's not about that. It's about the state mandate. It's not. I have no problem with anyone wearing a mask. I don't see someone wearing a mask and think less of them, or maybe they're right. Maybe it's good for them. Maybe, we should. My problem is the state arresting people for it. My problem is the state determining who can and can't go about their lives, open their businesses. That's my issue. But civil disobedience, I've never really thought I had to be in a place to even consider it before. But I'm considering civil disobedience on this myself.